doctor.
I don't mind carrying the extra weight. I think of it as my daily exercise.
BestMed Medical Scheme. Better living, better life.
Welcome back. The birth control pill was introduced into the market in May of 1960 and has been hailed as the most important scientific advance of the 20th century. Half a century after its approval, it's still a leading method of birth control used by more than 100 million women around the world. 1960. In fact, that means if you're older than 52, there's a strong likelihood that your parents didn't want you. I'm sure Dr. Carol Thomas's parents wanted her, or were chuffed that they did, given what she's done for our country. Carol has received a multitude of awards, among them the award for selfless dedication and commitment to reproductive and sexual health and rights. She's been a women's health activist since the 80s and has contributed at national level to policy guidelines and development in the areas of reproductive health, and was on the task team mandated to produce our national contraceptive guidelines. In other words, no one more qualified to discuss healthy contraception. How would you approach choosing the appropriate contraception?
Often the woman herself will come with some preconceived ideas, and those will be influenced by her peers, what she herself feels, and what she thinks is acceptable to her and her worldview. And my approach really is to give a supermarket approach. You can go in there, and these are the things that are available. These are the pros and the cons, and you make the decision based on what you think you can do and what kind of reliability you want, and how it fits into your lifestyle.
Well, let's step into that supermarket and let's look at what's available for our women.
I have a bouquet of things.
It's a rather small shelf, you know, come to think of it. But, so let's kick off with I think, probably the most common, the pill.
I think most people know the pill. And most people think about contraception as being the pill. And as you said, Ed, and you've already calculated my age there, that it's been around for a long time. The difference, however, is since 1978, we do not have any high-dose pills, which is really what people are talking about when they worry about the effects of the pill, the bad things. People talk about cancer risk, for example. And in fact, low-dose pills like these will decrease your risk of ovarian cancer by 80% if used for more than 6 to 7 years. Similarly, uterine cancer, the reduction in risk is also 80%. Women on the low-dose pill don't get osteoporosis because they get estrogen support for their bones. Anemia is less common because of decreased bleeding. And as we all know, there are people who use it for the skin to decrease the effect of testosterone on the skin and get a clearer skin. So those would be all the pros. The downside is that you have to take it every day, and that's the real problem with oral contraception. Of course, you always hear about weight. I'm going to get so fat, I'm going to have water retention. And some people do, and that's within the first 6 weeks of starting. But however, at 3 months, there is no difference. Most of the low-dose pills now are weight neutral and metabolically. In other words, it won't do anything to your cholesterol.
Carol, does it normalize, or do you go back to the original weight you were when you started?
You go back to where you were. Okay. You're not going to lose weight, but you most definitely shouldn't increase weight. Those women who increase their weight, it's 3%, which means that 97% don't pick up weight. But it's the commonest concern that women have.
So let's look at the alternative then to the pill. I think injectable hormones is probably...
These injectable hormones come in vials. They are the most commonly used contraceptive in the country, and there is a 3-month one and a 2-month one, so you need to go for injections at regular intervals. But your big plus there is once it's in the system, it's in the system, and is more reliable than your oral contraceptive. Okay. Downside is that if you are concerned about weight, you're more likely to pick it up on an injectable. If you have mood problems, it can exacerbate and make depression worse. So the advantage of not having to worry about it for a few weeks is offset against that. Yeah.
And finally, you have an intrauterine device, something we call the Mirena.
Yes. Now, most people will know the copper device, and Mirena has been in the country since 1999. And they're little T-shaped devices. There is this green bit on here, which corresponds to the white tube there, which is very less easy to see, which contains hormone. It's one of the hormones that you would find in the pill, the progestogen part. And for those familiar with the mini pill, it's actually the same hormone that's in the mini pill is in this little tube. These are expensive, but if you calculate what they cost over a 5-year period, because they last for 5 years, it's actually cheaper than using condoms if you were to pay for condoms. Wow. A little bit of hormone is released through this little tube, through the special plastic per day over a 5 to 6 year period. One of the downsides is that initially there's some bleeding, which is unscheduled. It can start anytime. You go to the loo, you wipe yourself, and there's a bit of blood. But that settles at about 3 months.
Any pain?
It is, in fact, used for pain relief at the moment, and this is where it is popular in young people with with period cramps. Okay. In fact, there's a condition called endometriosis, which is, if it's not a severe form, is actually treated with a Mirena. The big plus for older women is that this also protects you against uterine cancer.
Karen, if we would take a step back now, I mean, of all the information you've given us on both the pill, the injection, and the intrauterine device, how would you approach, or how would you recommend a girl approaches contraception?
It would be dependent very much on her age, Michael. I mean, if she's a varsity student or she's a technicon, she's not going to be planning a pregnancy in the next few years, then something like an intrauterine device and also a copper device is a very good option. If you want the cosmetic effects of skin, etc., so it really is about feeding into those needs. When women are in stable relationships and they are planning children, probably the pill is a better idea. Of course, you can just take out the Mirena, and the minute the Mirena isn't there, it doesn't work. So it only works while it's there. As a planning method, when you are ready to have your kids, the injectable is probably the worst because it's so unpredictable as to when it will exit your system. For the 2-month injection, it may be 8 months to 9 months. For the 3-month injection, it can take up to a year before you ovulate or the egg is released for the first time.
Let's talk finally effectiveness. I mean, every little packet and insert says this is not 100% effective.
Both the injectables and the Mirena have the same reliability. It'll stop a pregnancy in its tracks. It's equal to a vasectomy, which is not bad going. The problem with the pill is it is dependent on the person using it. Yeah. So if you are on an antibiotic that interferes with enzymes in your liver, then it may be rendered ineffective. So the least effective of the little group of stuff, the group that I have here, would in fact be the pill. But if correctly used, it is a very safe method. And it is at this point that one should mention that we should always use condoms if possible with your method for obvious reasons of STI prevention.
Carol, thank you so much for those candid thoughts and fantastic insights into contraception. Of course, I disagree on one matter, and that's that there is one oral contraceptive method that is 100% effective, and that's simply saying no.
There are certain things I love to do that are also good for my health. Like shopping.
BestMed Medical Scheme. Better living, better life.
I want to live the best life.